The 76ers, they can undeniably be the scariest team in the East, but there are a couple reasons why they're not, and I'm about to lay some of those reasons out for you guys in this video. Now, before we get into this video, I just want to express gratitude on the last video I posted. It was about J-Dub, and I'm not gonna lie, I got an unbelievable reception from you guys, and I gained about 20, 30 plus subs, something of that nature. I just want to say I appreciate you guys. Welcome to the channel. Hopefully you stay. Look forward to great basketball talk going forward. And if you're new to this video currently, don't be afraid to drop a sub. We won't bite. It's a great hoop culture, hoop debates, hoop discussions. All that is done here. And again, I'm happy to have you. Now, currently sitting at third in the East, 1 game behind Boston and 3.5 game lead on Cleveland, the 76ers are one of those teams that they're not quite in the contender tier in the Eastern Conference, but they're also not with the rest of the teams. They're sort of in their own second tier just by themselves. Now, I made a video on this team earlier this year before the season began, and I pretty much had the same sentiment that they were pretty much the dark horse favorite of the East. Now, I didn't really know that the year would come to fruition to this point, and I didn't know it would pretty much come down to exactly what I said in that video. Since most of you are new here and I only had like 200-300 subs back then, pretty much what I said in the video and what I thought about the Sixers was that they could be the absolute best team in the Eastern Conference with Harden as their main facilitator as opposed to a scorer, Embiid doing Embiid things, and Maxey turning into more of a scorer than what he already was his rookie season, which all three have all happened while this team has gotten better with some additions during the trade deadline. When you look at their roster, there's honestly no reason for them to not be in the thick of it, especially after acquiring a guy like Jalen McDaniels, who I think is a much better replacement for Matisse Thybulle. Now, of course, Matisse is playing well in Portland right now, so it probably just wasn't a good fit for him. But regardless, in a Sixers uniform, I think Jalen McDaniels is a much better fit for this team, scheme, and what they look for out of him. Now, it's funny to say this because if this was old TB, I wouldn't say any of this at all. PJ Tucker, he gets the minutes he does, and there's a good reason for it. I've been watching the Sixers a lot lately. I used to talk a lot of trash about PJ Tucker, and I thought he was one of those Patrick Beverley, Montrezl Harrell kind of guys where they don't do too much. But when new and improved, intelligent, more wise, more basketball thinking TB looked into it and actually paid attention to the analytics and stats, you would see that with the main four on the court, which is usually Harden, Maxey, and Embiid, sometimes DeAnthony Melton, and you throw in a PJ Tucker or McDaniels in there, their defense doesn't really fall off production-wise. PJ is amazing on the floor defensively, and the other players around him, they usually make it to where he's not so much needed on offense, which is a good thing, but it's even better because he doesn't make himself a liability on offense even though he's not needed. If you swing the ball to him, he's going to hit the shot. He's going to get you a good shot. He's going to get you, the assist. He's going to do something to contribute to the team at the end of the day. That's the main difference between a guy like PJ and, say, a guy like Grant Williams. PJ is a guy where he's not going to be a liability on either side of the floor. He can lock up the best offensive player on the opposing team. He can also come on the offensive end and hit 3, 4, 5 threes from the corner for you and really contribute to your team's win. Grant Williams, on the other hand, he might be able to hit a shot that game. He might not be able to hit a shot that game. He might make a good play, or he might put the ball on the floor and lose the ball and fumble over it, or something like what happened against the Knicks happens where Emmanuel quickly is getting in pick and rolls and specifically targeting a guy like Grant Williams because why? He's a liability. And I think I could say without any shadow of a doubt, I don't think PJ Tucker, whether it's regular season or playoffs, is being singled out on the defensive end. It's just not happening. This team also takes a couple steps forward with Shake Milton's offensive ability growing, most notably with his 7% jump in three-point shooting. Tobias Harris is playing a lot more consistent. He's putting in very good minutes, but it's consistent minutes that you can rely on him to not be on the negative side of the plus minus. Maxey's offense maturing seemingly overnight. Dude has become a hooper, and it's only his second year. He's matured not only in basketball, but outside of basketball. You can see the maturity and growth and him really becoming a man. And lastly, and of course, this is not least, this is your bell cow, this is your guy, this is Philly's main dude, Embiid having another MVP-like season, to which I would argue he might deserve the MVP this year. With all this going on for the Sixers and all this good that I'm saying and stuff, one might ask, why are they just dark horses? Why aren't they definitive contenders with the Celtics and the Bucks? Why are they a team that they're ahead of everyone else, but when it comes to the top two teams, there's big question marks and there's uncertainty? Now, there's a couple answers to this, and I think many of you that are watching this video right now that watch basketball and or are Sixers fans, you know the answer to this question. You know the main answer at least. And it really comes down to the fact, in my eyes and in my opinion, Doc Rivers isn't that great of a coach. I'm gonna keep it a bean with y'all. I have never seen a coach coast off of one ring for so long. There should honestly be a study done on it because he won his ring in what, 07, 08? I mean, how many coaches do you reasonably see keep a job for 7 years, never reaching the finals with a favorite in many of those runs, then come to another team who could be argued as favorites in a couple of years that he's been there and still not come close since the Raptors won a few years ago? And I'd argue, and many 76ers fans that I've talked to, and I'm pretty sure would agree with this sentiment, y'all probably should have won it the year that the Raptors won it. Y'all had the perfect opportunity, a great team, and you probably should have brought back majority of those guys from that team to be your core. As it stands, you guys have an excellent GM that has built this team very, very well and hasn't seen the negative effects of losing that year. It also goes to show Doc Rivers has benefited from this. Now, if you look at Doc Rivers' record on paper, it looks amazing. 23 seasons, 1,043 and 735 record, 204 wins and 104 losses in the postseason, and in 18 of his 23 years coaching, he has made the playoffs. But I have to say, as a very, very, very avid sports fan, and as a Cowboys fan who is an enemy to most, there's one thing I know about Philly fans. There's absolutely one thing that I know and can say definitively about Philly fans that goes undeterred. They have all my respect, first of all, but secondly, they want to win. They don't care about any accolades, achievements, and regular season stuff. They want a win. They want rings. Philly is a winning town. Simple as that. They breed winners. Postseasons, at the end of the day, they don't cut it. Philly's not used to that, and at the end of the day, you need to bring rings to that city. They need to see you get the job done, and Doc hasn't done that. A Sixers championship in 2023 would mean that Doc Rivers had done his best coaching job ever, and I'm gonna be real. That seems like a stretch at this point, especially for a guy that hasn't done that, hasn't even come to that level of coaching since he had Paul Pierce, Rondo, Kevin Garnett, and Ray Allen all on his team. As Philly fans have seen firsthand, it's extremely hard to overcome bad coaching in general, but when it comes to the playoffs, it becomes especially hard to overcome bad coaching because that's when the defense gets more condensed and offense, it comes mostly from adjustments and half-court sets. Despite this, I still got the Sixers as dark horse favorites in the East. Now, I think Harden taking a much smaller role in terms of scoring contributes to this directly due to the fact that he doesn't have to do so much. He's averaging almost 22 points per game, 6 rebounds, and he's leading the league with 10.8 assists per game on 45% shooting from the field. Since coming to Philly, Harden has shot less than any other time in his career, while keeping the same efficiency, which is amazing with the exception of when he played in OKC. Harden's reputation has largely been a regular season warrior, a guy who performs very well in the regular season, but when he gets to the playoffs, he falls short. And as somebody that was a Harden hater very early, especially in its Rockets days, especially when he was in the West and my teams had to battle him, I can be honest and say that narrative is a bit disingenuous. Harden was largely the only scorer on those Rockets teams, and by the time the playoffs rolled around, he either was carrying the load entirely or his body had broken down to the point where he can only give what he had at that point. Harden's role with this new talented offense around him, it actually helps the chances of winning as opposed to just them falling short. And I think that has to do with the fact that he doesn't have to do so much. When it comes to big shots at the end of the game, he's not gassed like he used to be. He could take those shots without worrying about having the legs to hit those shots. And he's gonna have enough gas in the tank because, again, Maxi's offensive maturity come to fruition. Joel Embiid is Joel Embiid, and when it gets to the end of the game and you're not necessarily asking Maxey to take those big shots, which I might add he's not afraid to take, but when you're not asking him to take that, Harden can take it confidently, knowing his legs are under him. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm confident in a Harden game winner, buzzer beater, whatever you need from him to shoot at the end of the game. With Maxey and Embiid likely being the first and second scoring options, ideally is going to give Harden the ability to manage all aspects of the game. Consequently, Harden's role also helps Embiid for the similar reason. Embiid will be allowed to take rest on certain possessions without being forced to go get a bucket because he has the help to do so, while he also can keep the floor space and still be a weapon. And this is also where Maxey, he's become the X factor to this team's success. And with the maturity and skill this kid carries, I could say with the utmost confidence, he could help lead this team to the promised land. Now again, as I stated throughout this entire thing, bad coaching, it's very hard to overcome. And it would be cool to see this team coached by a guy like Ime Udoka, who's out there on the market now. But regardless, I think they now have the leaders, talent, and the tools to win it all. And if they happen to get hot at the right time, run into a string of some lucky occurrences at the right time, next thing you know, you're going to see the 76ers having a championship parade in Philly in June, July, whenever the championship parade is. And I'm not gonna lie, as a basketball fan, it's good for hoops to have Philly not only winning, but Embiid winning the MVP and the championship in 1 year. Come on, bro. Philly is about to be going crazy this summer. I honestly might change my finals pick to Philly. I ain't even gonna lie to you, but that's all I got for you guys in this video. Let me know what you guys think about Philly down below. If you're new and you made it this far into the video, don't be afraid to subscribe. We don't bite over here. We have some good hoop talks. I try to cover every basketball team that I can. If there's a team that you haven't seen me cover, let me know in the comments below, and I'll make a video on them ASAP, no Rocky. But until next time, it's your boy TB with the greatest hoop stories and debates on the tube, and I love you guys, and as always, I am out. Peace.